7 sources of waste. Toyota production system postulates the elimination of waste, also called MUDA, and there are 7 types of waste that are recognized. The first is overproduction, and that simply means producing too much and too soon. Um, if we do overproduce, that of course leads to some additional waste, for example, in the form of material handling or additional storage or perhaps transportation of the units that are produced too early. In lean production, we want to produce only what the customer wants and when the customer wants it. Now, notice that this applies not just to the finished product and the end customer, but also it applies to production of parts. So, when we produce a part, the customer is the next stage in production that uses that part. Again, the same logic applies. We shouldn't produce it too early. We should only produce it just in time when the customer, which is the next stage of production, needs it. The second source of waste is waiting. Waiting happens in two forms, either resources wait for flow units. This is when we have idle time and the resulting low utilization of resources, or flow units wait for resources to become available. And this is where we have inventory. The third type of waste is transport. Internal transport is wasteful and should be avoided or at least reduced whenever possible. Hence, we need to work on improving the layout so that internal transportation is minimized. The fourth source of waste is overprocessing. Sometimes a worker might spend too much time on a unit, for example, polishing the car, or sometimes there is time spent on unnecessary activities. For example, a doctor asking a question that was earlier already asked by a nurse. The fifth source of waste is inventory. Of course, we have to have some inventory in order to produce units, but too much inventory is to be avoided because, for example, it can hide quality problems in our production process. The sixth source of waste is rework. Rework increases variability in production time and, of course, consumes capacity. We should avoid doing rework whenever possible. We should basically produce units correctly the first time we work on them. The seventh and final source of waste is motion, and this is, of course, linked to ergonomics. Tasks should be analyzed and optimized using ergonomics, otherwise, they will be unnecessarily wasteful. The overall equipment effectiveness framework used by McKinsey is an example that shows how the different sources of waste can lead to a dramatic decrease of the actual useful time for some resources. So here we see on the left a bar that shows the total planned uptime for some resource. And then we see different sources of waste like breakdowns, changeovers, idling and minor stoppages, reduced speed, defects, startups, right? And then we see each of those reduces the available time on the machine just by some amount, but the total reduction is quite dramatic. And you see that as a result, we can, if you look from the perspective of how much time is actually useful, you can see that the potential to improve is quite high. We can easily triple the amount of units that we produce on this resource if we only reduce or eliminate some of those sources of waste, which are here grouped into downtime losses, speed losses, and quality losses.